Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. We have Reed Wilson. He's a Hill reporter. He wrote a book about the Ebola response, so he's a perfect person to talk to about the coronavirus response. We've got Professor Richard Wolff to talk about the economic fallout and what kind of an economic package would be up to the task of what we're seeing right now. And we've got the chair of the Democratic Party of Ohio. They are supposed to vote next week. Is that even going to happen? Should it happen? What's going on there? We'll talk to him about all of that.
Yeah.
And of course, Saagar, we have a debate coming up this weekend as well. The first one-on-one debate between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden.
We all have to watch this closely because so many things have changed. Biden is now the front runner. This is the true test of Bernie Sanders as the underdog. Can he bring it to Biden, change the dynamics? And of course, we have the coronavirus thing grafted on top of all of this. I think that the two-hour debate, which already it was supposed to take place in Arizona, but broke news yesterday that it's actually going to be moved to Washington. And you see that it's going to be held here in Washington, D.C. for security reasons. There's going to be given before there's no studio audience.
Which by the way, I personally think should be the way these are all done.
I think it should because it's going to make no cheering. It'll be very much like a Nixon-Kennedy-esque moment, really remarkable moment in history. But, the candidates are going to have to talk a lot about coronavirus. They gave a little bit of a preview yesterday. Both of them held speeches on the topic. Let's take a listen.
The World Health Organization now has officially declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Downplaying it, being overly dismissive, or spreading misinformation is only going to hurt us and further advantage the spread of the disease. But neither should we panic or fall back on xenophobia. Labeling COVID-19 a foreign virus does not displace accountability for the misjudgments that have been taken thus far by the Trump administration.
In addition, those who depend on tips, and the restaurant industry is suffering very much from the meltdown, those who depend on tips, gig workers, domestic workers, and independent contractors must also qualify for unemployment insurance to make up for the income that they lose during this crisis. We need to make sure that the elderly, people with disabilities, and families with children have access to nutritious food. That means expanding the Meals on Wheels program. It means expanding the school lunch program and SNAP so that no one goes hungry during this crisis and everyone who cannot leave their home can receive nutritious meals delivered directly to where they live.
Really kind of a stark moment. It's funny, both of those together. You see Bernie focusing on
the substance.
How are people going to be taken care of? And Biden is, and I'll go into this in my radar, really trying to project this we've got this big, I'm calling it big presidential energy.
The flags in the background and everything.
He's ready to go. I've got my Ebola. The same guy who ran Ebola is his chief of staff. We're ready to go, right? It's these are the two messages that both candidates are going to be projecting throughout the debate. I think that's really what it's going to focus on. Bernie, we're going to see him talk a lot about Medicare for all and about jobs guarantees and about using social safety nets. I think Biden is going to be all about the crisis, moving, getting test kits. And look, that's important, actually.
Yeah.
Most people, actually, if I had to venture a guess, most people want to hear how are you going to handle the crisis itself. But one of the things we've been talking a lot about on the show in the midst of this crisis is we have to understand that this will end, but the enduring economic effects, we have not seen a crash like this probably ever. Last 30 years. Yesterday was the worst crash for the Dow Jones since 1987.
You and I were trying to rack our brains yesterday and trying to think of good content for the show of some sort of historic parallel.
There isn't.
A phenomenon that, is very serious, but is going to be finite in duration.
Yeah.
It will, even if it reoccurs in the fall, we will get past it. But what does it mean from an enduring perspective in terms of the economy? I just don't think we have any idea. And part of the problem is that working class is already so up against the wall. They can't sustain any blow. Our social safety net is a disaster. We're at such a disadvantage compared to Europe where things are not going well either. Even if you want to get tested, You can't.
Yeah, you basically can't.
You can't get tested. And so
I'm hearing this across the country. I mean, people, so many of our viewers and friends and others tell me anecdotes. My one friend, knows somebody who works at a convention center. All convention center stuff is canceled, right? Until June, laid off for months. What are they going to do?
Friend of mine who runs concert festivals. Done.
Student loans. How are you going to pay your student loan payments? I was at the coffee shop this morning. I said, hey, how are you doing? Tips and everything. They said, well, we're gone. All our regulars are gone. Dog walkers. I know that, again, these are all like gig workers. They're saying, oh, everybody's working from home. They're taking care of their dogs. I mean, these are again, Washington forgets these people. Everybody forgets these people. But that type of work has only increased since the 2008 financial crisis. And in many ways, as a result of the financial crisis. People are in this vulnerable position and in this instance wiped out.
Yeah. So I have a very specific idea for the Sanders campaign that was actually suggested by Aaron Mate that I'm going to get into in my radar. But in terms of the debate, I think it's not only projecting that, like, I've got this commander-in-chief type energy, as you put it, which is important. Like, people want to see a level of confidence of, okay, this is the guy, right? This is the person that is going to have this under control, is going to move the trains, is going to be like in control and not freaked out and know what to do. I think that projection of confidence and competence is number one. Number two, though, to your point, there are so many Americans who are working class, who are in the gig economy, who are, cleaning houses and apartments and hotels for a living, who do work in the service sector where everything is also getting shut down unless you're at Walmart and Costco, or who work in warehouses where, on the other hand, you're getting totally slammed and overworked, and it's just or on the front lines of the health crisis. So I think it will be both the projection of that energy, but also very specific. How are you going to make sure I can get through this period? My family can get through this period. Do you see me and my needs and challenges and specific struggle in this crisis? I thought comparing the speeches that we saw, we already talked about Trump. That speech, obviously, it
didn't work.
It was a disaster. The markets crashed. It obviously reassured no one. What he and the Republicans are suggesting is so small ball, it's absurd. So put that to one side. But between the two Democrats, Biden was sort of a standard traditional speech that mostly overlooked the working class, mostly overlooked the specific vulnerable populations who will be most affected by this. And I thought Bernie, while his stagecraft is not as good as Biden's, we have to acknowledge that. And that's a real thing. It actually
is a thing. Yeah.
It's a real thing that, that his campaign, and he needs to get serious about. He needs to look like a president if he wants to be the president. But in terms of the substance and actually thinking about what working class people will need and will be concerned about, he's talking about, let's suspend evictions, let's suspend foreclosures, let's suspend shutting off utilities. I think those are essential items that I really haven't heard much of anyone talking about.
And I want to give credit to some on the Senator Tom Cotton and Marco Rubio both been talking a lot about, Marco in particular, on supply side bailouts, basically making sure that we keep industries that employ a lot of working class people full of cash and making sure that those people can distribute the benefits that they need. And Cotton as well saying, rich people are not the ones who should be getting these bailouts. And, the other issue is about the bipartisanship that we've seen, which is that what is the bipartisan agreement? The payroll tax is always, even right now, they're squabbling over paid sick leave. And it's
unbelievable
guys,
to me.
This is step 0, -1. It should already exist. It's what we should be talking about right now is step 10. Because that's how people do not understand how quickly the economy is cratering. It's every single day the Dow Jones is erasing gains. What is it? 3 years almost worth of gains that have been erased in a span of just 3 weeks. One of the single biggest catastrophic economic events of my lifetime.
Yes.
And this has real implications. It's not just about stocks. We're talking about banks having money. It's about lending. It's about people, convention centers.
People having jobs.
And then all of this money is not moving. The way economies work is I go somewhere and I spend money. If people are all at home, a lot of white collar workers everybody is basically serving them, right?
Exactly.
They're at home. There's no Uber anymore. No Uber Eats, coffee shops, personal trainers. People aren't going to gyms. People are canceling on the dog. It's these are real people's
People
lives.
are actually taking care of their own kids.
People are actually taking care of their own children. And now it's there's a lot of problems in terms of there's no cash flow. And that is how things seize up. It's that things can seize up so quickly. And I don't want to sound like alarmist.
I know, but I don't understand how people don't see that and get that. I mean, I was watching Mitch McConnell on the Senate floor, saying Democrats are putting out an ideological wish list. Like, I freaking wish they were. I think the Democrats' response is way too inadequate. Almost none of them are talking about the sorts of things like suspending foreclosures, suspending evictions, suspending. Right. I haven't seen any of that from them, and that's where we need to be. We need to be thinking about a massive stimulus. You've got, we're going to talk to Tulsi Gabbard later. Yes. She's suggesting UBI, like, let's just give everyone some cash cushion right now, which I think those are the type of measures we need to be thinking about and talking about. So the fact that they had to fight to even, it hasn't even passed yet, fight to even get paid sick leave, something that we should have already on the books. My mind is blown by it.
And I don't want to forget.
And they're still going, like, how do we pay for it? Like, are you freaking kidding me?
Well, that's not.
Are you kidding me?
I will say Nancy Pelosi inserted some, poison pill stuff. Again, people shouldn't be doing this stuff. Like, there's no reason to be putting Hyde Amendment stuff in the,
It's not really true, though. I didn't see that confirmed.
I got it come out from the White House. And it's like.
Well, I don't really trust them, so.
Fair enough. All right. Well, from some reporting.
Per the White House. Okay.
It's just like, regardless on this stuff, why are they squabbling over? Like, there shouldn't even be a decision on here. And again, the most things everybody should be scared here is whenever people get to come together on bipartisanship on economic response, because we all know what that means. That is a very clear cut, and we're heading right down the same road in our politics today.
It's unreal. It is unreal. I really am surprised at the amount of foot dragging, because you can see with your own eyes the economic fallout every day. And like you said, it's not to panic people, but to send a message to our leadership, like, get it together.
Yeah, for real.
Come up with some response that matches the times.
People are suffering.
People are already suffering, and it's only going to get worse. All right, we're going to tell you what's on our radars. That's next.